All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney, 1901 to 1966. What if I told you the creator of the happiest place on earth was once told he had no imagination? That's right. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper. His editor said he lacked creativity. The same man who gave the world Mickey Mouse and Disneyland told he wasn't creative enough. Think about that. The mind that conjured magical kingdoms was once called unimaginative. That wasn't his only failure. He faced bankruptcy multiple times. His most successful ideas were stolen by people he trusted. People told him his biggest dreams would never work. But he didn't give up. In fact, those failures became the fuel that built his empire. These failures secretly fueled his journey to achieve the impossible. He built an entertainment empire. An empire that has shaped the childhoods of billions. An empire that continues to define entertainment itself. Today we know the castles. We love the characters. We feel the magic. But few know the real story of the man behind it all. Even fewer understand the specific mindset that powered his success. This wasn't a story of luck. It wasn't being in the right place at the right time. It certainly wasn't about privilege. His family was not wealthy. As a boy, he worked grueling hours delivering newspapers in the freezing cold. His success wasn't handed to him. It was forged in the fire of constant adversity. Built, brick by painful brick, on a set of 4 core principles. Principles that allowed him to not just survive setbacks, but to use them. And here is the most important part. That powerful mindset isn't exclusive to him. It's a blueprint. A map we can all read and follow. Today we reveal the powerful mindset Walt Disney used to overcome challenges. We uncover the principles Walt Disney used to turn failure into fuel. We'll explore how he turned wild dreams into tangible reality. Walt Disney teaches 4 principles you can use to follow your own dreams. Remember, you can apply these same principles to achieve anything. Principle number 1, turn devastating failure into your greatest weapon. Let's begin with a story that should have been the end. We're in the 1920s. A young, ambitious Walt Disney is finally getting traction. His first studio, Laugh-O-Gram, had already gone bankrupt. He was reportedly so broke, his daily meal was cold beans from a can. But he clawed his way back. He poured his energy into a new character, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And it worked. The Oswald cartoons were a genuine success. Walt Disney was finally on his way. Feeling confident, he traveled to New York to negotiate a new contract. His distributor was a man named Charles Mintz. He walked in expecting a better deal, a bigger budget. He had leverage. Or so he thought. Instead, he was handed a cold, hard ultimatum. Mintz had secretly hired away most of Walt's key animation staff. Then came the final blow. Thanks to the fine print, Mintz legally owned the rights to Oswald. Mintz informed Walt he would now produce the Oswald cartoons himself. He offered Walt a choice: stay and work for Mintz on his own creation for a pay cut, or he was out. Just like that, Oswald cartoons was stolen from him. Most people would have quit. Most people would have been crushed. The long train ride home was one of the lowest points in Walt's life. He had lost everything. Again. But on that soul-searching trip, something incredible happened. He didn't drown in despair. He started to sketch. Oswald was gone, but his creative spark wasn't. That belonged to Walt alone. He knew he needed a new character, a character that he would own outright, 100%. He took the long ears of the rabbit he lost. He mentally shrunk them down, rounded them out, and put them on a simple mouse. He initially named him Mortimer. His wife suggested a friendlier name, Mickey. That mouse, Mickey Mouse, was born from the ashes of his most crushing failure. It would become the bedrock of the entire Disney empire. This wasn't a lucky break. It was a direct result of a catastrophe. This formed a consistent trend. He didn't merely withstand failure, he absorbed it and learned from the experience. He famously said, "All the adversity I've had in my life have strengthened me. A kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you." This was how he operated. He saw failure not as a final judgment, but as a powerful education. When Laugh-O-Gram went bankrupt, he later said, "I think it's important to have a good hard failure when you're young. I learned a lot out of that." So how do you take a setback and turn it into a weapon? First, you have to reframe what just happened. When you fail, it is so easy to think, "I am a failure." That thought is a trap. Walt's mindset was different. He saw the event as the failure, not himself. That separation is everything. Failure is not your identity, it is a data point. The Oswald disaster taught him a billion-dollar lesson: own your work. Second, feel the sting, but then pivot your energy. Despair is a dead-end street. But anger and frustration, that is fuel. Walt used his raw frustration to make Mickey Mouse a success, so massive it would overshadow Oswald. Next time you get knocked down, ask yourself, how can I channel this raw energy into my next move? Third, you must embrace the clean slate that failure gives you. When you lose everything, it feels like a curse. But it's also a strange kind of freedom. You are freed from old ideas, bad contracts, and limiting beliefs. Losing Oswald freed Walt to create something entirely new, with hard-won wisdom. Our greatest breakthroughs often come after our biggest breakdowns. When you find yourself at the bottom, there is no box. There is only a blank canvas. Think about a failure you've experienced. What did it truly teach you? What could you build now, with that knowledge, that you couldn't have built before? Failure isn't the obstacle on your path. Failure is the path. Principle number 2, build a universe, not just a product. By the 1950s, Walt Disney was a household name, but he was never the kind of person to rest on his laurels. His vision was always bigger than a movie screen. He wasn't in the business of making cartoons. He was in the business of building worlds. In 1957, his team created a now legendary diagram. At the center, like the sun, was theatrical films. This was the creative engine. Branching out from it were the other parts of the company: television, merchandise, music, and at the bottom, Disneyland. This was a revolutionary way of thinking. A movie wasn't a one-off product. A movie was an engine. The film's stories and characters fueled new TV shows. The TV shows promoted the films and the theme park. The theme park was a living, breathing advertisement for the entire world of Disney. The music was sold on records. The characters were licensed for toys and books. It was a perfect, self-sustaining ecosystem. Each part of the empire supported and promoted every other part. The whole was infinitely more powerful than the sum of its parts. This thinking reached its peak with Disneyland. It was profoundly different from other amusement parks, because it wasn't one. Disneyland was a story you could walk into. For his next project, Walt Disney World, he operated like a secret agent. He secretly bought over 27,000 acres of Florida swampland. He didn't just want to build another park. He wanted to control the entire universe around it. He wanted to build a place where the magic never had to end. This principle of building a universe, not just a product, is incredibly relevant today. Stop thinking in one-off projects. Start thinking in connected living universes. How do you do this? First, identify your theatrical film. What is the creative core of what you do? A podcast? A specific skill? A software product? That's your engine. Pour your creative energy there. Second, map out your own synergy chart. How can your core work feed other things? How can they feed back to your core? A blog becomes a YouTube series. That series promotes an online course. That course builds a community. That community gives you ideas for future blog posts. You are no longer creating isolated content, you're building a self-sustaining system. Another example, a graphic designer. Your product is design work. Your universe is an Instagram account showing your process. It's selling prints of your best work. It's creating online tutorials. You are no longer just a freelancer. You have built a brand, an ecosystem. Third, obsess over the total experience. Walt understood the experience was the product. At Disney parks, employees are cast members. Visitors are guests. Everything is part of the show. In your own work, what is the total experience you are creating? It's not just the final report, it's how you communicate. It's not just the app, it's the customer support you build around it. People don't just buy a product, they buy into a story, a feeling, a world. What does your universe look like? If this message is speaking to your soul, don't just like and share it, hit that subscribe button too. Let's grow together, one courageous step at a time. Principle number 3, never settle. Chase better every time. Chase better every time. Walt Disney was never, ever satisfied. He was driven by a powerful internal force some called a divine discontent, a relentless, lifelong pursuit of excellence, an absolute refusal to accept good enough. For Walt, the reward for good work was the chance to do more work and do it even better. The greatest example is a film that nearly everyone said would bankrupt him, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In the mid-1930s, animation meant short, silly cartoons. No one had ever produced a feature-length animated film. The industry was convinced it was a fool's errand. They said audiences would never sit still for 90 minutes of drawings. The project was so widely mocked it was nicknamed Disney's Folly. But Walt had a vision no one else could see. He saw animation as a legitimate new art form. To make it real, he pushed his team, and himself, to the absolute limit. The project went wildly over budget. He had to mortgage his own house. The entire future of his studio was bet on this one film. He was a relentless, obsessive perfectionist. He scrutinized every frame, acting out scenes himself, demanding changes. He offered animators $5 for every single gag they could create for the dwarfs. He knew the dwarfs were the emotional heart of the story. His divine discontent wasn't just about working harder, it was about innovation. He was dissatisfied with the flat look of animation. So he pioneered the revolutionary multiplane camera. This massive device created a breathtaking sense of depth never seen before. It was a marvel born from his refusal to accept the limits of his craft. When Snow White premiered in 1937, the audience was stunned into silence. Then they erupted into a massive standing ovation. The film was a colossal hit. It legitimized animation as a true art form. Disney's Folly became his greatest triumph, all because he refused to listen to the chorus of good enough. So how do we cultivate our own divine discontent? First, separate the act of creation from the act of critique. Walt subconsciously played 3 distinct roles: the dreamer, the realist, and the critic. As the dreamer, he encouraged wild ideas with zero judgment. As the realist, he figured out a practical plan to build the dream. Only then would the critic come in to poke holes and improve the plan. Give yourself permission to be the dreamer first. Second, make a habit of plussing. This was a word Walt used constantly. It means taking something good and adding one little extra detail to make it great. It's a commitment to continuous, incremental improvement. After you finish any task, ask, what's one small thing I can do to plus this? Over time, this habit creates a standard of excellence. Third, consciously raise your standards by studying the best. Walt was a lifelong learner. To cultivate your own divine discontent, you have to expose yourself to greatness. If you're a writer, read the best authors. If you're a programmer, study the most elegant code. This inspires you and recalibrates your internal sense of what good is. Satisfaction is the enemy of greatness. Embrace that divine discontent that turns a good idea into a timeless masterpiece. Principle number 4, lead with story, not just strategy. Walt wasn't just a CEO. He was a storyteller. It was the core of his identity and his most powerful tool for leadership. He understood a profound truth. Logic can convince a mind, but only a good story can capture a heart. This was never clearer than in his pitch meetings. He didn't just hand out a dry script. He put on a show. For hours, he would single-handedly act out the entire movie. He would become the characters. He would perform every voice. He made his team feel the movie before a single frame was drawn. He wasn't just giving instructions. He was transferring his vision directly into their hearts. They weren't just employees, they were co-conspirators on a grand adventure. His great secret to leadership: he didn't manage people, he enrolled them in a story. He used this same technique to fund his wildest dreams. When trying to build Disneyland, the bank said no. So he went to the ABC television network with a story. He proposed a weekly TV show called Disneyland. It would give the public a thrilling, behind-the-scenes look at the park's creation. It was a brilliant move. Storytelling as strategy. The show built public hype to a fever pitch before the park even opened. All the while, ABC helped pay for the park's construction. He sold the story of the park, and in doing so, he got the park itself built. This principle, leading with story, is a vital key to influence. First, understand that you are always telling a story. In a job interview, you tell the story of your career. When you pitch a project, you tell the story of a solution. The only question is, are you telling a compelling story? Reframe your goals as simple stories. Instead of listing the features of new software, tell a story of a hardworking team, the character, frustrated by an old system, the conflict, who will be freed by a new tool to do meaningful work, the resolution. Which version is more persuasive? Second, use emotion in concrete detail. Walt didn't just say the whale was big. He described the dark shadow, the sound of the ocean, the terror in Pinocchio's eyes. Paint a picture for your listener. Use a powerful analogy. Share a personal anecdote. Don't just show market projections. Tell the story of the one customer whose life your product will change. Third, you must live your story. Walt didn't just tell stories about creativity, he embodied them. Your credibility comes from your authenticity. If your story is about innovation, you better be the first to try new things. If your story is about teamwork, you better be the most collaborative person in the room. People will only believe in the story when they believe in the storyteller. What is the story you are trying to tell in your career, in your life? As Walt Disney proved, the person who tells the most compelling story wins. The secret to Walt Disney's success wasn't a single magic formula. It was a mindset, a set of principles he practiced every day. First, he taught us to see our greatest failures not as dead ends, but as our most powerful weapons. Second, he showed us the power of building a universe, not just a single product. Third, he was driven by a divine discontent, a fire for excellence that pushed him to constantly innovate. And finally, he led not with strategy, but with story. These are not just lessons on how to build a media empire. They are fundamental principles for how to build a meaningful life. They are lessons about resilience, vision, excellence, and influence. Walt Disney once said, "It's kind of fun to do the impossible." He didn't just say it, he lived it. His life is proof that the impossible is simply a story waiting for a great storyteller. A story that you have the power to write for yourself. If this video inspired you, don't walk away inspired alone. Like, share, and subscribe so you never miss more motivational stories from fascinating minds. And let us know in the comments below, which one of Walt's 4 principles are you going to start applying to your own life today?